This is a Willets Point Shea Stadium bound 7 express train. The next and last stop is Willets Point, Shea Stadium.
Let's get into the pitching. The Mets pitching, the lab of success here. Look, starting surprise, man. Who has been the biggest surprise for you out of this rotation? And most impressive?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a tough one because I wasn't so sure about Holmes, but Griffin Canning has been really good. I don't know if he's coming back down to earth a little bit. I know he pitched well against the Mets last year, but with a guy that works off of secondary pitches and doesn't have a good fastball, that's very uncommon. I think that's where he might still the bullpen might be where he goes. Maybe he's a bridge guy. We'll see. I think David Peterson has similar to in a smaller way, like Beatty has night and day. Remember we were talking about him last year, Anthony. The metrics weren't good for him. Guy just gets people out, finds ways to get people out. He's always had moxie. I think it's a tie between Peterson and Canning. And I mean, how many closers? I know Ronaldo Lopez did it last year with Atlanta, but how many closers? Not name. Well, and Eckersley did it from one side to the other, from starter to reliever. Can come in and be like really. Let's call him like maybe he's a number 3, but a number 2, number 3. And he wasn't a good starting pitcher. When the Yankees took him on, they converted him to an elite bullpen arm. Usually the other way around is easier. You don't see it to the starting rotation.
Yeah.
And, so I would say, though, those 3 guys, I mean, if you had to pick one, Griffin Canning is probably the one that's the most surprising because I didn't think out of the rotation he'd be this effective. I thought out of the bullpen he could be, but not out of the rotation. So
Carl McNeil agrees with you. Thinks Canning definitely is. For me, obviously, it is Clay Holmes. I mean, like you mentioned, the fact that the transition from the starting rotation, from the bullpen to the starting rotation, has been amazing to see from him. And you think about it, his innings here. Most innings thrown in a year for him, 2021, 70 innings. Last season, he threw 63 closing and out of the bullpen for the Yankees. This season, he's at 60 and a third innings pitched.
Well,
now you
know. Now you know why innings. They got the sixth starter. They got Blackburn, and that might cost them some games because you're going to have a lesser starter, whether it be Blackburn and it will be fascinating to see how Montas and Mania fit into this because you got to probably send McGill down because he's got options. That's the only reason he gets sent down. You got to maybe move either a Blackburn or Canning to a bullpen role. And I think that will help them because they're so heavy bullpen that you could then use a starter to give you innings. Kind of how they did with Buto last year. They use him then he would be down, but that was more detrimental because they needed Buto as a high leverage reliever. This is a situation where if you're up 7-1, now you could bring in that piggyback starter. I don't know if they would and they may have to piggyback a little bit because I'm not sure how long Montas could go. And they may also look at guys like Montas and to a lesser degree, Mania as 2 times around the order guys. I think Mania could probably go more. So maybe they'll have like 2 starters go. So it'll be fascinating to see how they incorporate those guys. What's amazing is no Mets fans are pining for either Mania or Montas. And Mania was a huge part of last year. And Montas was expected to be this year's Severino. And in a lot of ways, I've already seen them looking at him in Brooklyn. He looks fat. I'm like, oh, here we go. Because, what's going to happen is he's going to come in and have a not so great Mets starting pitching performance. And now the pitchforks and the fire are coming out at that point.
I'm going to agree with my guy, Carlos Ramos here. Not a surprise for him, but the most impressive has been David Peterson. And I got to agree with this. The thing coming into this year with David Peterson for me was finding that consistency to last in the rotation for a long time. Yeah. We saw a great David Peterson coming back from the hip surgery last year, even in the spots that they put him in the postseason out of the bullpen, closing out that final game of the series against Philly, against the Dodgers.
Against the Brewers. Like, think about it. Like, that was a huge 9th inning. When I saw Peterson, I was like, oh my God. The way he bridged the Phillies game to Diaz. Maybe that's where his development happened. It's so tough because you could make any argument, any of those 3. Nobody's wrong. That's how good the starting pitching's been. And I think it's sustainable because we're now, at a point where, maybe they'll wear down a little bit, the Cannings and Holmes because of the innings, but they already have a plan for that. And it's not like Mania and Montas are chopped liver. Those are guys who give you quality starts. Those were elite top of the rotation options in Oakland. Now Montas, I'm not as great crazy about. I know he gets hit. Lefties hit him a little bit, but you could probably navigate lineups that way a little bit. Not every team is heavy lefty with big bats. With Matt, Braves and Matt Olson certainly, but Harper, Schwarber. I mean, maybe you don't start him against the Phillies. Maybe that's something to do. But so yeah, no one's answer is wrong. It's probably been the biggest surprise of the organization since spring training.
Yeah, and he's had his ups and downs in his career, injuries every season for him, and now to finally find this, consistency could help the Mets out not only this year but going into the future, where free agent pitchers are just too expensive, especially lefties. He could be a very important piece. I want to talk about Kodai Senga because you talked about not having that ace, and obviously he's not the ace level pitchers that we are accustomed to. But Kodai Senga has been really good this season and as a Met in general. Can he be that ace that seems to be lacking in the rotation?
Look, ace to me is a guy who takes the ball, goes 7+ innings in a big game. That's not going to happen with any pitchers anymore. How many pitchers are going to do that? There's no Max Scherzer, vintage Max Scherzer. They're going to give you 90 to 100 really good pitches. And I think the thing that's been impressive about Senga is that when he hasn't had his best stuff, he's been able to work contact, get ground balls, overcome some early runs. He did it against the Dodgers. He did it against Colorado yesterday. That ghost fork, until again, I was very blessed to have the contact that got me seats behind home plate. Watching that behind home plate disappear, it is literally an impossible pitch to hit. How he's evolved in throwing strikes. In a way, the Mets, it hurt them last year, but not having him reach his innings threshold and not have an opt-out is going to give them a guy at a very good price for a couple more years. They would have to compete for his services, and I think he'd get a nice contract. I think Kodai Senga has been everything that you could have asked for, and probably a lot better than I expected. I expected back in the rotation, walk too many batters. I expected probably Tyler McGill. Like, to be frank, I think that what you see out of McGill, I expected out saying it. And I wanted Chris Bassett to stick around because I liked Chris Bassett. I know he spit the bit in Atlanta.
We both did.
and he didn't pitch well against San Diego in the postseason. Now, I know he's a little bit more hittable than you would like if you look at the hits to innings, but he's a guy that's going to give you innings. And I think he's got some moxie. And truthfully, if you told me, could you acquire a pitcher? I don't know if Bassett's available. I don't know if Toronto would sell him. He would be a guy that I think, and I don't think that that's where the Mets are going to go because they already got, knock on wood, injuries could happen and that could change overnight. But Kodai Senga, I was wrong. Billy Epler was right. Kodai Senga was a better play than Bassett.
SNY Mets on X posted the graphic earlier this morning. The lowest ERA among qualified National League starters. Number 1, Kodai Senga, 1.60. Number 5, David Peterson, 2.69. So top 5 pitchers, 2 of them belong to the Mets rotation.